I never thought a storage unit could smell like guilt. But Unit 114 did. I'd worked at Ridgeline Self-Storage for almost 2 years by the time I got assigned to clean it out. My manager, Doreen, handed me the paperwork without looking up from her desk. Owner defaulted 8 months ago. Auction fell through, nobody wanted it once they saw what was inside. Just bag it up and toss it. Cameras are down in that hallway, by the way. Wiring issue. Don't worry about it. I should have worried about it. The facility sat off Route 9, a long row of orange roll-up doors that always looked the same shade of rust no matter the season. Unit 114 was at the far end, past where the fluorescent lights started flickering and never quite stopped. I remember standing in front of it with my cart and my box cutter, feeling that specific kind of unease you get when a place is too quiet. Not peaceful quiet. Held breath quiet. The lock had already been cut by facility maintenance. I just had to lift the door. Inside was mostly what you'd expect: moldy boxes, a broken dresser, a stack of yellowed newspapers tied with twine. But there was a smell underneath the mildew, something Swedish and wrong, like meat left too long in a car. I told myself it was just old food. People stored the strangest things. I started with the boxes near the door. Most were clothes, men's clothes, size large, folded with a precision that felt almost military. Then I found the photographs. Dozens of them, all of the same woman, at different ages, in different rooms, always looking slightly away from the camera like she didn't know she was being photographed. Some were normal. Family gatherings, birthdays. Others were taken through windows. I told myself I was overthinking it. People collect weird things. I kept working. It was the second hour when I found the wall. Behind a stack of moving boxes, someone had built a false partition out of plywood, just enough to hide a space maybe 3 feet deep running the width of the unit. I only found it because I leaned against what I thought was the back wall and it flexed under my weight. I should have called Doreen right then. I didn't. I told myself it was probably just extra storage, a cheap renovation hack some previous tenant used to maximize space. I pried back one of the panels with my box cutter. Inside were more photographs, hundreds of them, taped floor to ceiling, all of the same woman. And carved into the plywood itself, over and over, in different depths, different pressures, like it had been done across years, not days: "She knows I'm here." I stopped breathing for a second. The handwriting wasn't uniform. Some carvings were shallow and shaky, others deep and furious, like whoever wrote it had come back to write it again and again, each time a little more desperate. I backed out of the unit and called Doreen from the parking lot, my hands unsteady on the phone. She sounded annoyed more than alarmed. "Just take pictures for the file and clear it out. People are weird, hon, you'll see worse." I didn't tell her about the smell. I went back in only because I needed my cart. That's when I noticed something I'd missed: a second, smaller door cut into the false wall, low to the ground, barely large enough for a person to crawl through. It was closed from the inside. I didn't open it. I told the facility I'd finished the job, packed my cart, and walked out without looking back. 2 weeks later I quit, telling Doreen I'd found a job closer to home. That wasn't true. I still think about that low door sometimes, and what it means for something to be closed from the inside of a space nobody was supposed to be living in. I never went back to check who, or what, closed it. Some questions, I've learned, are safer left as questions. The job was simple, or it was supposed to be. Inventory and dispose. That's what 11 years working storage auctions teaches you to expect: furniture, tools, the occasional oddity, never anything you couldn't explain by morning. Unit 47 broke that streak. I was working for a liquidation company that year, contracted to clear defaulted units before auction. Most jobs took an hour. This one, according to the paperwork, had been locked up for 6 years. The renter, a man named Aldous Fenn, had paid religiously every month by mail, cash, no bank account on file, until the payment simply stopped. No forwarding address. No next of kin listed. Just silence, and a unit nobody had opened since. My coworker Marcus met me there at 8 in the morning. We cut the lock together, and even before the door was fully up, I felt it, that particular cold that has nothing to do with temperature. The kind that makes the hair on your arms stand up before your mind catches up to why. Inside, everything was arranged with obsessive care. Chairs faced a blank wall in neat rows, like a waiting room for something that never arrived. A single desk sat at the front, and on it, a leather ledger filled with handwriting, names, dates, short notes. Marcus flipped through it while I catalogued furniture. "This guy kept records on people," he said. "Look, dates going back 15 years. Times. Locations." I didn't think much of it until I found the recordings. Cassette tapes, dozens of them, labeled only with numbers, stacked in a milk crate beneath the desk. Being the curious type, I found an old tape player still plugged into a rusted extension cord running to nowhere. The unit had no power, and popped one in anyway, more out of habit than expectation. It clicked. Static. Then breathing. Then a voice, low and measured, reciting an address. My address, from 3 apartments ago. I dropped the tape player. Marcus laughed it off, said it was probably some old telemarketing script, a coincidence, city addresses repeat. But when I checked the label on that cassette against the ledger, my old apartment number was written there, dated 2 years before I ever moved in. We stopped working after that. Called the facility manager, who called the police. Nothing came of it. Fenn had vanished so thoroughly there wasn't even a photograph on file, just a name and a P.O. box that had been closed for years. The tapes were logged as evidence and, according to the one detective who ever returned my calls, eventually lost in a records transfer. I moved twice more after that, each time telling myself it was for work, for space, for anything but the real reason. I never told anyone the real reason except once, years later, to a woman I dated briefly who worked in records management. She looked up something for me, a favor, she called it, and found that Unit 47 had been rented under 3 different names before Fenn's, going back decades, each renter vanishing the same way. No deaths on record. No relocations. Just gone. The chairs are still there, I imagine, arranged in their neat rows, facing that blank wall, waiting for whoever comes next to sit down and listen. I took the overnight cleanout job because it paid double, and because I needed the money more than I needed sleep. That's the only reason I was at Brackwell Storage at 11 at night, alone, working my way through a unit that had been sealed since a woman named Ruth Calloway died with no family to claim it. The facility owner, a tired man named Gil, walked me to the unit and left almost immediately. "Everything in there's junk," he said. "Just get it in the dumpster by 6. I don't care how." Then he was gone, and it was just me, a headlamp, and Unit 22. Ruth Calloway, I would learn, had lived alone for the better part of 30 years. What I didn't expect was how much of her remained in that 10 by 10 space, hundreds of dolls, each one dressed differently, arranged not haphazardly but with an unsettling sense of composition. As if they'd been mid-conversation when she died. I worked quickly at first, bagging dolls 2 and 3 at a time, trying not to look at their faces. But somewhere around midnight, I noticed something that made my stomach drop. The dolls closest to the door had shifted. Not fallen, shifted, subtly, their positions changed from when I'd first walked in, as though they were slowly rearranging themselves to watch me work. I told myself it was exhaustion. Storage units settle. Boxes shift when you move nearby ones. I kept working. Near the back, I found a small wooden chest, locked, with Ruth's name carved crudely into the lid. Inside were letters, dozens of them, all addressed to a daughter I hadn't known existed, all unsent, spanning decades. The last one, dated only weeks before Ruth's death, was different from the rest. Shorter. The handwriting shakier. I know you don't visit because of what I did to the others. I understand. But please don't let them take my girls when I'm gone. They're all I have left, and they don't like to be alone. I don't know why that letter unsettled me more than anything else in that unit, but it did. I sat there in the low light of my headlamp, surrounded by hundreds of small painted faces, and felt, for the first time in my life, genuinely watched. I finished the job faster than I should have, throwing dolls into contractor bags without ceremony, telling myself it was just work. When I got to the last row, I found one doll sitting upright, separate from the others, facing the exact spot where I'd been standing for the last 3 hours. I didn't remember it being there when I started. I left it. I couldn't make myself touch it. Gil found me outside at 4 in the morning, sitting in my car with the engine running and the doors locked, unable to explain why I'd stopped working 4 bags short of finished. He fired me 2 days later for not completing the job. I never told him why, and I never went back to collect my final paycheck. Some nights, I still think about that letter, about a woman who believed her dolls didn't like to be alone, and wonder if, in that storage unit at 4 in the morning, something had simply been waiting for someone to finally listen.